So go back to for a minute, starting from ground zero at the beginning of when you first got out back in November. So
Hmm.
what did it look like to you? How did you feel at the very beginning? I mean, described a little bit where you knew there was a lot of stuff you didn't know,
Hmm.
and you worked on your contract and you worked on a lot of the logistics of starting as a chiropractor in the practice.
Hmm.
But describe a little bit how you felt. Were you uneasy? Were you insecure? Did you feel like you needed to learn this to get a lot of confidence? You know,
Yeah.
elaborate a little.
So my first humbling experience is I had the opportunity
By the
in
way,
my
that is
family.
my least favorite dessert, humble pie. I
Oh
have that
yes,
so
yes,
much. I hate
yes.
that dessert.
And it's a pie. It has too much sugar anyway. But but it's one of those things where I had the unique opportunity to shadow my father for the last 6 weeks of my clinic experience.
Wow.
So for the 6 weeks, I got to shadow him with many of his patients, and I had this persona around me that I'm just gonna walk in day one and have a full schedule because I'm the third generation Dr. Forster and I'm the better evolved version, right? Every generation. So I had this atmosphere around me, and it's one of those things where fortunately enough, that day that I got licensed and I got my OUM insurance, um,
Nice.
I had a baby. 30 minutes later, my very first patient was a 1 month old. And, we have a huge pediatric practice. I would say about 60% is babies and children, and
Wow.
only about 35-40% is actual adults, which is wonderful. However, I was assuming I was going to get this like 40-year-old man, whatever, something simple like that. And I had this 1 month old baby, with eczema, colicky, something like that. Right. And so I did it to the best of my abilities. And, it's been relatively successful. However, since that patient, I didn't have a patient for like a week straight. And I thought all the patients would just round up around me and want to see me right away. And it actually took about, in the grand scheme of life, it's pretty short. But when you have such a confidence going into something, it took almost 3 months to start really having a full schedule. So for about 60 to 70 days, I would drive all the way from Long Island to Brooklyn to see a patient for 30 minutes to drive all the way back from Brooklyn to Long Island. And I'm sitting in a car for 2 hours there and 2 hours back, like, what is going on? What is happening? So it was one of those things. And, try to put the, I try to lash out as in, like, why is my father not getting me more patients through his secretary, this and that. And I realized that and this is the first thing I learned is patients trust their doctors with their health. And there's nothing more vulnerable than a patient's health. And there's been such a great dynamic between my father and his patients that it's not easy to just, trust another doctor with their hands in their health with some serious things and blood tests and saliva tests and, 2, 3 decades or 4 decades of seeing family members. And then all of a sudden say, you know what, let me see someone else. Right.
Yeah.
But it was one of those things that one led into two. And then I understood the concept of referrals. Once I help the mother shows the child shows the husband, who shows the family member next door. And it happens like the way anyone else talks about it. So that was one thing that was really the fact that it took 3 months. And I actually thankfully had a break. I went to Costa Rica where I got to, clear my mind, clear my spiritual senses, and come back a little bit renew after 10 days. And, life works in very paradoxical ways where I actually came back. I left the Costa Rica trip with not many people on my schedule. I came back from that Costa Rica trip scheduled a month and a half out.
Isn't that something?
It's something. So
That's
for
a real thing.
exactly. So trying to force it was actually working against me. And when I left to leave another country, all of a sudden it all came together.
Yeah.
And there's something beautiful and ironic about that. And I love those things about life that grows deeper than just the profession alone.
Wow. That's pretty cool. There's actually something that I've often studied called the law of reverse effect. Do you ever see
Mm.
that or hear about that?
No, no.
So what, and it rings very loudly with me, and I can surmise it probably will ring loudly with you because, you know, I think that, I mean, what I'm gathering about your personality is that, you're very focused and you go after what you want, and you're like, okay, so I'm going to put my whole self like I'm possessed into this goal.
Mhm.
and why isn't it getting achieved? And then when you
Mhm.
back off, it's like the waters just calm down, and what you wanted just kind of comes. But if
Exactly.
you work so hard on something, it almost stifles the vibrational energy of it all. Does that make sense?
Exactly. You got it. And,
So
I
that
don't
sounds
wanna go
like what you experienced.
exactly. And I don't want to go too voodoo with everything, but the idea is that there's definitely a concept around trying to force something and trying to manifest something. And there's a
Correct.
real fine line about that. And I'm trying to go a little bit more with having dreams that are so big that I'm scared of them, but yet, travel gracefully throughout that journey a bit.
Sure. Sure. Wonderful. Great concept. Okay. So